For anybody who can read, you can pretty much tell what's going on here. This is another episode of Headshots, because I like to follow this up with members of the community after any kind of key events, and we had kind of a big one going on last weekend, Blimp.
That is for sure. Some intense matches.
So, I mean, I guess there's really a couple ways to go to this. I guess I want to start off talking about your history and what brought you to this point. Then we're going to cover the event itself, and then I'm going to follow it up with what's Flat kind of threw it out there and spoiled it a little bit earlier today. But I want to get into what was my favorite moment of the entire event and wasn't caught on camera. So anybody who's already joined us for right now, you're going to stick around the whole time. But we're just going to start off, man. I mean, how did you you have a history with some of your teammates in this tournament, right? I mean, how did all that come together?
Well, yeah. So Zios, Chowie, and I have gone way back. Geek, maybe 2 or 3 years, and yeah. So when I started playing again, or maybe 3 years ago, we kind of clicked right away. Formed a couple MLET teams, played in the the Euro 10-year anniversary cup, this most recent tournament, and yeah, we've been good friends the whole way along.
Yeah, I think I actually casted many of those matches, in any of those leagues. So, anyone checking this out, you can definitely check out at least some of those matches on the YouTube channel there. So how long? I mean, I think you and Zios in particular, maybe is he who you've known the longest from your team? I know you guys played on some teams like way back in the past, right?
Yeah, not so much. When it was prime in the 2K4, 2005, '06, '07, we didn't play together then. I knew of him, but yeah, we really just started playing once I returned here a few years ago.
Okay, so you guys kind of all just, I guess, as the community, kind of tightened in on itself, you just kind of ended up gravitating towards some of the veterans, I suppose.
Yeah, well, he ended up joining you guys after I had stopped playing, and that's, where I had originated from. That was the team I played with most of my career, I would say. And so I think he recognized me. I kind of recognized him, and he was happy to see me back playing. And that's kind of how it all started.
Okay, now, if I recall correctly, too, you haven't always been a flag runner. I mean, that's obviously how, most of the people watching this video are going to recognize you. But how have your positions changed over the years?
Well, I definitely enjoy flag running the most. But yeah, defense was a strong point of mine. Just I'd say my fragging ability, especially in 2K4, helps with that. So, defensive cover, mid, I feel comfortable doing it all. But flag running offense is where I really shine, and that's where I'd like to keep it.
Is it because you, do you feel like it's a little more creative, maybe?
Yeah. It's almost like an art, I'd say. So you can put a lot of thought into it. You got to be quick. Movement's got to be on point. Awareness where your enemies are at all times. Everything. It all factors in.
Yeah, and I definitely think, you have that fragging ability. One comparison I always made to people, when you compare games like, say, you got your start mostly in 2K4, which obviously was a little bit more defensive flag running style, but some of the old schoolers, some of the guys who learned to play, when you had lower or higher pings and all that, I think really translated well into UT3 and could come back and translate well into the new Unreal Tournament, simply because you don't have the option of playing defensively when you're running the flag, other than maybe running with the piston alt fight. You pretty much have to cover yourself, and it really rewards that. Do you think that is a big factor in sort of your effectiveness, is being able to cover yourself because you have that history of fragging ability?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of runners out there, they'll just grab and especially in 2K4, put up the shield gun and rely solely on their cover. But that one extra, fragger there to make some noise and do some damage certainly doesn't hurt, as long as you can keep making forward progress and still dodge all the spam.
Yeah, I mean, if this tournament showed us anything, it's that one kill can definitely mean the difference between winning or losing, or tying it up. I mean, it feels like pretty much any of the matches that went out there could have had at least a couple caps swinging in either direction there.
Yeah, yeah. I was telling everybody, after the event was over, that any of those matches, maybe other than the dev matches, probably could have gone either way if we played it all back again. So
I mean, you
couldn't have
can't.
asked for a more balanced, set of teams.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really physically get like mathematically much closer than that. I mean, you had overtimes, you know, you had Bled dropping the flag 5 feet from the stand to tie it up.
Oh,
Like, I mean, you had advantage time that would have gone to. I mean, you literally cannot get closer than what we saw this weekend.
yeah, yep.
So, I mean, to that point, something that I've sort of pontificated with some people is that, I almost feel like part of the reason we saw these close matches is because we had so many veteran players. What was it like on your team? I mean, how was it? I mean, playing in these close matches, but you were with guys who, again, you were familiar with, you were comfortable with, but also had seen all this before. I mean, everybody, all the veterans of these teams had been in these big close matches before, right?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. I mean, we have them, nightly in some of these pug games, and obviously the environment's a little different, not as nerve-wracking. There was a lot of tense emotions going on there. But yeah, on our team, we all meshed really well together. We were all, looking to do the best we could for each other, and there was a lot of talk, especially after that first map, where we couldn't even get a cap in. A lot of close calls. Could have gone either way with the standoffs, but we tried to make some adjustments. Tried to recognize our faults, what we did wrong there. Noticed what you guys did right, and just tried to adjust, which I think showed in that final map that we had.
Well, I want to get into the X's and O's with you a little bit after that. But first of all, I guess you mentioned your flag running, and you kind of see it as the creative aspect of it. So, sort of a high level question, but how much of your flag runs do you improvise, and how much of them do you sort of determine or ahead of time? Like do you when you grab a flag, do you already know kind of in your head what you want to try to do, or do you just completely play it by ear?
No, yeah, definitely going in. I try to always, plan a little bit ahead of time where I'm gonna go as soon as I grab the flag. But from there, I'd say before you hit the midpoint on a map, you never really know. Sometimes everybody's waiting for you on the other side. You want to kind of fall back, rethink, reposition, maybe even wait it out. Um, so yeah, I'd say after that point, it's all just open. You never know what's going to happen, which is, the kind of the fun all in it, all about it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, one thing I like to emphasize to people is that capture the flag. If I had to boil it down to one skill set, it would be decision making, because that's what you're doing is you're on the fly, super high speed, and you're just having to make decisions. And that's the kind of thing that I think we're really going to see elevated once we see real team play and we see people who practice together for months at a time. You can plug and play experienced players pretty effectively, as we saw this weekend, but once you really get into that teamwork where you know each other, I think it's really going to really take it to even another level.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, and that's what's great about, everybody getting together so early on in the development process of this game is that we can play it early, learn it, and just keep progressing together.
So, one thing I like to ask flag carriers about it then is how do you how do you manage your comms, your communication with your teammates? Obviously, when you've got the flag in your hands, you want to try to help them set up ahead of time. But I mean, how do you balance then? Because you don't want to be too predictable, right? Like you don't want to say, "Hey, I'm going to take this route and I'm definitely going to go here," and then they set up, and then that shows the other team where you're going. Like, let's use for an example the lift and Titan Pass, which is a very predictable route. If they know you're going for it, they're going to get right up there, and you're really relying on your teammates to clear it out. But at the same time, you don't just want to be constantly changing directions and then your teammates just running back and forth trying to follow you. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I'd
Is
say
there not a good answer to that?
no. I mean, it's really just good positioning by your cover, and especially in this game where you have some type of indication where the flag is,
You have the
or
logo now.
yeah. So comms as far as where you are, obviously are still important, but not as. they can kind of make their own decisions and not always rely on you to tell them where you are, which I think adds a whole nother aspect to it, because a lot of flag runners don't always give a status on their position. And that's always something I've tried to do. But, if you are almost too ahead of yourself, you can make the wrong call sometimes and end up,
Like if you have to double
negatively.
back or something.
Exactly, yeah. So,
So then from your perspective, it sounds like what you're saying is that having that logo up there and that icon basically takes away from some of the base level communication overhead and allows you to focus on more complex calls, maybe.
yeah, yeah, definitely. If I can tell, where our FC is, but I see, two or three people, in his path or upcoming, then I can make the call for him, and don't need him to tell me
That's
that
actually an
that's.
interesting point because I mean communication it has a finite there's a finite amount of communication that you can spit both directions like to your teammates and back. So taking away some of that baseline level of it, I suppose helps clean it up and helps open the door for even more complex stuff that you would normally be covered by people trying to give the base level information. I hadn't quite thought of it like that. It's an interesting thing because some people might think that it makes it easier or more simplified, but in a sense it may actually free up comms to become even more tactical and more complex.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I could see relying on that going forward in the future as more people get comfortable with it, and then really only mentioning, uh, saying the route if you're planning on switching it up, and other than the direction you're already going. So,
Yeah, because it's because one of the things that's kind of hard for cover to really do is pass information to the carrier. Like once they've already grabbed, it's really hard for your cover to say, "Hey, we're both at shock, come shock," or whatever. Because usually the carrier is busy calling things out, the defense is busy calling things out rather, and so the cover doesn't have much room to fit in without just spamming up the whole chatter. So cleaning up some of that and making it so that they can maybe pass some more information upstream. That's interesting. I hadn't actually looked at it that way before, and it'd be interesting to see how that develops.
yeah,
But so then I guess we'll get a little bit more, like I say, into the X's and O's because I'm very much an X's and O's kind of guy. I would have a whiteboard behind me with markers if I could or a telestrator. But so so what I'm curious, what exact adjustments? Because I know we made adjustments on our part. We obviously played in both. We played both the first and last maps of the entire tournament. Our two teams against each other. Um, and we made some adjustments, and I know you guys have specifically mentioned that you guys made some adjustments.
yep.
I'm just curious, what adjustments did you make? I mean, I don't think there's going to be any super secret strats these days, given how early it is and how covered this whole event was. So I don't think I'm too worried about anybody giving away anything secret here.
Yeah, no. I'd say there's two big factors. One, obviously the power up control. You guys dominated us on first map. Um, and two, we noticed the amount of grabs that were taking place, especially cherry picks. That second half, our flag was always off the stand, and I think we were a little too conservative. We weren't keeping it moving at the same pace you were, and ultimately, the more runs you get in, the higher chance you have making a cap. So,
Well, that's the thing is with a map like Titan Pass, I think people it's not a tiny map, but it's the fact that when you get the flag, it's all downhill from there. You basically I think to a certain extent you have to concede the fact that you're going to be fighting in mid a lot. And so, are you saying
yep.
maybe you guys were too concerned about keeping it in base and you needed to flex? You flexed a little more out because I did notice that I was getting harassed a lot um, in front, like by our shock playing our 4D. I was getting harassed a lot by two people at a time.
Yeah. I'd say it was more on the offensive side. Like we were too conservative with our grabs, trying to get set up.
Oh, I
Uh,
see.
so yeah, that's kind of what I meant there.
I did notice you guys were doing a lot of grabbing, going sniper, and then hesitating to wait to get the D to overcommit to one side.
Yeah, yeah, and on that map especially, when you can be out of the base and into mid in a little over 3 seconds, that should be the main goal. Sitting back in the base, playing defensive, that's just gonna bring more more people out to mid because at some point they're going to lose you, and then they're just going to wait until you show your face, and then it's all over, especially on that map.
Yeah, it's such a that's the thing is you can get to mid quickly, but then getting back out, that's the tricky thing. You can both get out quickly and cover the or I should say, collapse back down on the flag carrier in mid very quickly. In that aspect, like it's not entirely dissimilar to Pistola, I feel, where a lot of the key fights will happen in mid because on Pistola it's harder to get out of the base, like the opposite ends of the spectrum there. But I still feel like once you're in mid, that's where the big important fights happen on both maps. Because Titan Pass is harder to seal off the base, but again, we've seen so many caps where people just get up there, and if you have the health to rocket jump or piston jump, you can just go straight up there. Obviously, we've seen that when you don't have the health, that can be a whole other problem to solve.
Yeah, Titan Pass, I'd say the mid battles are pretty intense. Although getting across, I'd say distance wise, is not mm, maybe pretty close to Pistola. One thing on Pistola though, especially after the weapon placement changes, is that it doesn't make the mid challenges as tough as it was. When you did have the rockets out there. So I'm a supporter of you know putting the weapons back to where they were originally. I think that made the fights a lot more epic.
Yeah, I mean, as I understand it, that is the plan: is to go ahead and replace the weapons back to the original positions, and then go from there. Um, Personally, given the change in balance and all that, I definitely think rockets need to be in mid since they're so powerful that they will also draw you to that area. Although I don't necessarily hate having the shock radius. I think putting Stinger back in base where shock used to be would not necessarily be terrible, given the fact that it's such a closed off, like claustrophobic base that I don't think Stinger would be overpowered in that base. But anyway, that's just a thought. Like, I definitely think we should, we have plenty of time to test all this stuff out, and I definitely think we have a player base that's very willing to test any kind of changes, prototyping, any kind of testing that we can. But I mean, as it is though, I guess I wasn't surprised, but I guess I was happy to see how fluid all of these maps played. I mean, you never know, when you're getting things into a live situation with experienced players like that, when all of a sudden something breaks apart, as far as the map flow that you didn't necessarily see just from pickup games. But it seemed like it all worked out.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think the flow of these maps that we played, they couldn't have gone better. And there's a couple out there that we didn't get to play that are probably equally as good. Ascanize and Sinosier. I think those have just as good a flow to them, and I'd like to see those get picked up for competitive matches in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think the future's wide open as far as what maps we play. I mean, you figure you're probably going to have a stable of half a dozen really commonly played maps, maybe another half dozen sort of slightly oddball maps that may rotate around. I think that's kind of the pattern that we've seen in past games. Um, and so, I mean, right now, if anybody sees this who thinks they have a good idea for a map, I mean, as we've already seen, people are perfectly willing to play very basic, blocked out, not pretty maps in order to see how everything flows and test different changes and all that. And then from there, you can see, if you want to art it all up. I mean, even at Epic headquarters, they're talking about maybe making some changes to even some of these maps like Titan Pass and Pistola. Of course, we're still talking about making changes even after they've had their big art pass. So, there's still plenty of time for anyone to get their maps recognized and to put out some ideas and then get them iterated on.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it's tough to balance prettiness with playability, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that right now in some of these really super high textured maps. So we'll see how they decide to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, I know Steve. I mean, you weren't there on Sunday because you and Chowie, I know both left really early in the morning on Sunday, and a couple other people did too. But we had a lot of time on Sunday to sit down with Steve Polge and Jim, and I mean, just everyone was around, just kind of hanging out, just sitting down, taking notes, just talking. Um, and so we had I mean, I had emailed myself a list of like 37 talking points, and I got to cover every single one during the time there. But some of the things we talked about were about how, like, they know lighting is a little blown out. what they actually told me, and I don't think this is like a secret or anything, but they told me that their goal performance wise is that if you're able to run CS:GO well, they want you to be able to run the new UT well. That is sort of their baseline like goal. So for people wondering kind of about performance and like you can't fully turn off post processing right now and stuff like that, it, it's a little bit more comforting to know kind of what they're shooting for. But yeah, I do think a lot of that has to do a lot of the readability can definitely be tweaked. But those are kind of like those are things that if that's our biggest problem, they've definitely come a long way. Put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. I know it's not quite there yet. My PC currently suffers quite a bit, so it's good to hear that they are you know making those improvements.
And yeah, I mean, just in time, I think they just announced that they're going to have NVIDIA is going to have the 980s, the desktop version, put in laptops now. Not a mobile version, but the full desktop version in laptops. I could be mistaken. I think it's the 980. I think they just announced that today, if I recall. And
Yep.
so we're starting to see a lot of these, laptops finally get up to more gaming grade. But to that point, though, I mean, the vast majority, I believe, of PCs sold these days are laptops, and most of them aren't going to have a 980 in them. So, especially with a free-to-play kind of game where you're trying to expand your demographic, I think it's very important to focus on scaling downward. I mean, yeah, it's great if you've got a spectator in a match on a tournament like this where you're going to broadcast it to the world. Of course, jack everything up, make it look amazing. Great. Make NVIDIA want to sponsor again and give us all these awesome prizes and support. But you also want that player base who, if they can't handle it, can scale it back down, still have fun with their friends, and if they want to see the amazing, pretty textures, they can always pop open the stream and watch the cast and see it that way.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, to that end, I mean, this is a good time to mention it. Then, I mean, getting into the event itself. Um, I mean, was there anything you wanted to cover? Like, was there any thoughts that you really wanted to drop for the developers that you didn't have a chance to because you weren't in there on Sunday?
Um, I mean, no, it's all positive right now. I think that the way it's going, the pace of the updates are great. There are things every build that some people aren't happy with, but they've got to realize that it's just at this moment. It's nothing set in stone. So I think the feedback's important, and the devs especially shouldn't be afraid to make changes, right? Because this is all
It's all
in hopes to
iteration, right?
exactly, yeah, and it's to support the end goal, which is a successful community and hopefully a competitive one. And you've got to take feedback from competitive players, and even though they may not sound good, it may at least be worth a shot and implementing and just playing around for 2 weeks and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, switch it back. I think there's plenty of time for things like that.
Yeah, I mean, and like I was saying, there's tons of player. Well, there's a big enough player base right now that's willing to test anything and everything. I think we're all willing to give anything a fair shot. We've got people who are willing to play pickup games or whatever on maps, different settings and all that. That there's no reason to like guess whether you think one thing or another will work. I will say this, kind of my own little spiel here is that I was actually very impressed by how much these guys enjoy talking about the game. Like I kind of wondered, given the signal to noise ratio of how many different opinions they hear and all this, kind of what their approach would be. But I mean, we'd be having conversations about something, and Steve Polge would walk up and interject and be like, "Oh, wait, what's that? Say that again." And like, "Oh, well, here's the reasoning behind that. But if you have another suggestion, let me write that down real quick." I mean, the guy had a notepad on him nonstop.
Yeah,
So it was very encouraging to hear. And one thing that I was also very impressed with, and that was a marked departure from the past for business reasons and publishing reasons and all that, but for reasons, was that at no point during suggesting all my crazy off the wall, this is what I want ideas. At no point during the whole weekend was I ever told, "No, we can't do that." There was never like, "Oh, engine doesn't support that. We can't do that. It's too hard, technical limitation. We can't afford to do that," or anything. It was always either a design reason why they didn't necessarily think it was the best idea, or they wrote it down and said, interesting, we'll consider that." So that's always a good I guess sort of
yeah.
a good response to have to whenever you're putting forth these ideas.
I noticed the same thing, and I could tell, there's 100% dedication behind this project, and all the devs seem to really love this game and are very passionate about it. They were there the whole event. So it just goes to show how involved they are.
Yeah, I mean, to that end, like I said, it wasn't like the team walks out and says, "Hi guys, enjoy your sandwiches and put on a show for us," and then walks away. I mean, we were like all Sunday, like Steve Polger just sitting in a corner, like looking through notes, and if someone wanted to walk up and say, "Hey man, what about this?" He'd be like, "Oh yeah, let's talk." "Oh, okay," and then that was he was just completely wide open to throwing out ideas, and I think that's a good use of that time, but. Uh, it's kind of hard. But they don't show on stream, what they don't show on camera is all those in between moments where we're sitting around eating lunch and just throwing out ideas, and sometimes conflicting. Sometimes you got one guy at one table saying one thing, and one guy on the other side of the table saying another, and Steve or Jim or somebody sitting in the middle going, just kind of soaking it all in and going, okay, that's a good idea because of that. That's a bad idea because of that. We'll consider that interesting. That's a good idea. You never know, and so it was kind of cool to see how all that interplayed because, like I said, sometimes they were getting conflicting information.
Yep, yep. And that's when, you try one build and try the other, the next
Right.
build and see what
Fair enough.
happens.
Um, so do you have any like? I guess when I get back to the X's and O's here, do you have any specific preferences? Maybe even on a per map basis. Let's at least stick to Pistola and Titan Pass. But there's kind of like there's a few different ways you can run the flag. You can either try to run through some cover. You can try to do a speed run where you just straight up outrun them, or you can do your ninja runs. Do you have any favorite style for yourself, or at least on any specific map? Do you think one works better than the other?
Yeah, for me, I'm all about, keeping the forward progress at all times. So I'm not a big fan of hanging back and trying to trick or lose the defense. You really don't have that chance in those two maps anyway.
I think that may come into play on bigger maps if we get like orbital sized kind of maps that may become a little more viable.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But where the spawn points are in those two maps and how easy it is to just get right to mid and wait. Um, unless you want to do that, then you need your defense probably to push up as well and get to mid because that's where their whole team will be just waiting for you. So I'm a fan of keeping it moving as fast as you can and rely on your cover to keep you safe.
Well, I did notice that while you did have certain specific tendencies on, say, Titan Pass, for instance, where you get a high number of grabs, you did kind of switch it up from time to time. And there's a few kind of main routes you can choose from on there. Do you have any sort of favorite that you feel more comfortable taking? And then how do you decide when to switch it up? Like, do you grab the flag and say, okay, I've tried to go, right down the waterfall the last 5 times or so. Maybe I'll try faking that way and then going off to the right side just because they won't expect it? Or is that something that, again, you just kind of base off your instincts and just play it as you go?
I'd say you try to see trends in the opponent's defense. So if I see them in the same positions every time I'm going into the base, obviously I'm going to switch it up if something's not working. But if they're kind of all over the place and there's no real pattern, then it's kind of in the moment, just what feels right.
I think fighting game fans would call that conditioning, something that I think actually fits very well into the terminology for capture the flag, and I think it's something we're going to be speaking to in the future and using that terminology. I know I definitely noticed that you guys had certain tendencies, but then would occasionally keep us honest by going the other way. I mean, I like to play a balanced defense, so I didn't want to overload one way, like presuming you guys would go there. But I find it interesting to hear what the other team was thinking, and I know certainly during the stream they were trying to come into our comms from time to time, but I think what they missed was that we did so much talking before and after each match that they missed a lot of the heavy strategizing there.
Yeah, yeah, there was a lot going on, off the stage for sure.
All right, so anybody in Twitch chat, we got a few people watching. If, of course, Chowie down there. If anybody's got any questions you want me to ask Blimpo about, go ahead and throw them out there. I know a lot of you might be, a lot of you probably watched the stream last weekend. A lot of you guys are probably players. Some of you were there. But if anybody's got any questions about it, feel free to throw them out there. We've got plenty of time here. I do want to get into though, what, like I say, Flat kind of spoiled it earlier on the stream. But I want to get into what was basically my favorite moment of the event, especially of all of them that like weren't caught on camera and the kind of thing that they can't put into a video. Um, so so how exactly did you end up with the GTX 980? How exactly did that happen? I'll just let you, I'll let you tell it from your perspective.
Well, obviously Geek won the 980 and the Origin PC. And so, I suppose he could have just done SLI or whatever and used that in his new PC, but he felt, I deserved it. And, was impressed with how well I did. And so, he handed it over to me, which I'm very thankful for because I needed a new card tremendously. So, I'm stuck here on a 7950, still waiting for that 980 to come in the mail.
Yeah.
Especially with Titan Pass now fully textured, that's it's gonna be great.
So if I'm not mistaken, they had a little raffle like off to the side for some of the players too. Um, you won something in that raffle too, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I won the BenQ 24-inch G-Sync, which you guys won for winning the tournament. So I
So
guess they,
you actually got the same prizes as the people who won the tournament.
other than that beautiful trophy you've got sitting behind you, which I'm most jealous of. But well deserved, and congrats to you and your team.
I mean, what I tried to reiterate to everyone the whole weekend is that, all we really wanted to do, we were showcasing the game and showcasing the game type. And I'm certainly glad that we ended up with the trophy, but I tell you what, we did a great job all around of doing just that because I mean, like I said, even the third place team, I mean, Numb and Neo and Fear and all them, they were like a couple steps away so
Yeah,
often
just
from.
just as deserving,
I
I'd
mean, they
say.
were up on us. You know what I mean? I mean, we
Yep.
we won that game with 4 seconds left. And by the way, anyone who missed that tournament, there's the like 5 hour stream that they have online, but they've also cut that down to the individual matches. So if you just want to watch the matches on YouTube.com/Unreal Tournament, they have all of the matches cut down onto a playlist map by map. So it's a little more convenient to digest if you want to go pop in and watch one for 15, 20 minutes or so. Then go, I don't know, make a sandwich, drink a beer, whatever you do, and then go watch another one. Pretty easy to digest, a little bit more convenient than watching the whole long stream because, of course, they had a lot of downtime between that. Although I will say this, I mean, what were your thoughts on was it Hitbox, I believe, the production company that said that came in?
Yeah, they did a fantastic job. I was very impressed. Not what I was expecting at all. And just back to what you're saying about the matches, definitely check them out. They were all very close, right down to the end. And they really showcase what this game is capable of being.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like I say on our team, at no point was anybody panicking. I know they liked I think Zacubus made a little crack at Cafe talking about him getting a little elevated, but that's just him. The truth of the matter is, like, nobody on our team was ever panicked, even when we were down on Pistola going up against a wall of defense. When you have experienced players like this, everyone has seen all of these situations before, and so it's very calm and collected and saying, okay, the situation has changed. You just have to execute, and that's all it comes down to. And I feel like that's probably how it came, how it really played out until the last probably 5 minutes or so of the last match. I know we were getting a little bit more. I wouldn't say we lost our cool, but we were definitely getting a little more excited and anxious as that clock ticked down and as we got the go ahead cap, and then especially after you tied it up with what 7 seconds to go or something.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't think we were even going to be able to get out. We definitely felt the pressure after you guys capped, and those final what I think 2 minutes or so when it seemed like you were starting to stack up on the D and we're ready to take it home. So I'm very happy with the way we played and how well we did and our effort and getting it tied up at least.
All right, we're gonna.
And actually credit to Chowie for making the return on that because if it wasn't for him, obviously that wouldn't have happened. So just as much respect is owed to him.
Yeah, I mean it's very much a team game type. I mean, people are going to look at our scores and be like, "Oh, Timmy didn't have a high score at all." But I mean, they caught some of his flag runs on cam, during the stream, and I mean they were very very impressive. And
Yeah, I love the
so,
sprint up the waterfall. That was awesome.
but but yeah, I mean, we'll take a look at that one in a minute. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know what else to tell people other than just if you like close games. Like my dad was watching it. My dad's never played Unreal Tournament in his life. He's watched a few of my streams in the past, so he has some concept of how capture the flag works. But he said he was on the edge of his seat just because, again, it's when that flag's heading towards the other flag and denied, picked it up, denied. I mean, we had like Bled getting that monster kill deny, I think, on Titan Pass. I think it was a quadruple deny. I'm just
Yeah,
pulling him over and over and over.
I
Like
think he had one on Pistola as well.
well, I know. Yeah, he definitely. I think he had a triple monster kill on Pistola, if I'm not mistaken, with that amp stinger shooting right into the base.
Yeah. Yeah, and Epic was saying even on stream today that they learned a lot from this, and especially for third person or spectators, making it a little bit more easier to follow. It is such a fast-paced game, but I think based on the feedback from this event, that's something they're gonna definitely focus on going forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little things you can do. There's a lot of big things you can do. But I tell you what, there at least this is the first time in a long time we've had that be such a consideration. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these things are the kind of we're on our wish list in 2001 or whatever, and now we're sitting here in a pre-alpha going, man, I can't wait till they make that part better.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, I'm sure you can remember the demo days of the earlier games when we're stuck playing one map with
Oh,
no, nothing really, just
yeah.
100% stock. And
Well,
yeah,
well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely encouraging to see how well everything kind of came together, and it's really a proof of concept. I mean, if you get experienced players, you're going to get good games. You can present it to an audience, people will watch. I'm sure they're going to cut together some sort of highlight reel or I don't know, I call it a frag movie, but some sort of highlight movie of the event. And I mean, Lord knows how entertaining that's going to be.
yeah, and this is just CTF, so there's many other game types out there. So if capture the flag is not your thing, still give it a shot because a lot of fun can be had.
All right. Well, right now I'm going to go ahead and I want to take everyone through that last cap of yours. So to give a little bit of context, this was the grand. I mean, this was the final. You guys had come through the losers. We actually played in the very first match of the entire tournament. We won on Titan Pass. You guys fought your way through the entire losers bracket undefeated, and we met again in the final. And you guys took us on Pistola, so it went to the final map. And I want to say with something like we had capped a couple minutes before, right? I think we had gone up with like 4 minutes left or something.
Yep.
And then you guys had made a couple more runs. We actually did. We pulled. We saw that you guys were kind of pushing up a little more to mid as well. You should. And so we actually pulled PB back just a little bit, like not to play flag D because that really doesn't work on that map, but kind of to play more up front with me. So we were playing a little defensive. You guys were playing a little bit offensive,
Yep.
and so I think we had something like 37 seconds left when you grabbed the flag. So I'm gonna switch over to our replay view here, see if I can get this. Let me get my YouTube showing. Doesn't. All right. There we go. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and start it, and right at that 20:37 mark, and we're gonna go ahead and let me lower the audio a little bit, and I'm gonna have the cast go on so that anyone watching who didn't catch the cast can go ahead and hear Zacubus losing his mind, and we're gonna just play through this for a bit.
I would love to see this go into overtime. The grand finale go into overtime would be quite the battle.
Right, there are some amps on the playing field. PB's picking up the red flag. What can Blimpo do here? Has he got enough armor? He doesn't. I'm guessing that everybody's going to secure as much as possible. Blimpo trying to pick up as desperate as he can. The red flag is actually just hiding in base. This is a really clever move. This is superb play. So even if they do get the flag, it's just going to end and they can just drop it and force the maneuver. But PB's going for the run. That could have been the mistake. Blimpo's got the flag. 10 seconds left. Can he cap? Can he do the Hara jump? He does! The tie-up with 5 seconds left! Oh my god! We are
Wait for
getting
it.
hyped here. Wow!
Blue team
That
hasn't managed
wow.
to go.
That's what I wanted. I wanted to hear that wow again.
Yeah, it was intense.
So, I mean, really, what I want to know, like, when you came to, like, it looked like you guys had pretty much all pushed up. You pretty much gone all in and said, I mean, that's a
Yep.
situation for people who don't know capture the flag. When you're all in like that, you pretty much say, everybody go offense. We have to get this flag moving, and we'll worry about getting a return on the way back. Um, and I
Yeah, so I think
noticed,
Chowie had stayed back, but yeah, Zios was pushed up. You saw him get the grab or the pickup at the top of your waterfall and bring it all the way to mid. So it was really just perfect timing on our offense and defensive parts is just as equal, I think.
and I did notice that PB took took an air rocket right there, as Jim called out.
Yeah, out of
Um,
nowhere. Yeah, I don't think he was expecting that. Had he sat back a little bit and not just popped right out to mid, it could have been a whole different outcome. But good timing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him one bit. He hesitated a bit. He probably figured all you guys were pushing the other direction. Maybe thought he would just sneak back around you.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
was going up the lift right as he was going out to mid directly under it. So
so he ran right into your cover.
yeah, yeah, just about.
Yeah, if he had known better, if he had taken the left side, gone straight to our lift, I mean, you never know. But I mean, there's so many moments in this whole tournament that are just like you can't play if. Whenever you got these close to games, I mean, you can't look back and go, oh man, if this had happened, if that had happened, because everybody, literally every team, is like, man, that one thing. If I had done that one thing differently, if I had gone left instead of right, or said this instead of that, it could have totally changed, right?
Yeah, yeah, I was battling myself a little bit with that, especially in the deciding cap for your team where we both had each other's flags and we met in mid, and it was kind of this, dance around this box, and took the left route and walked right into Timmy's 3 grenades, and the whole
Oh
time
yeah.
I was like, if I had only gone right.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing that, and I really wish we had had a zoomed out like top down view to just see that dance. It would be kind of like seeing two rivers converge, or something, or a train wreck, one or the other, which, however, depending on how serene you're feeling. But yeah, I mean, you guys chose opposite sides of the box. I think the casters were expecting you two to fight and like just take a shot at each other, but the return ended up happening, and at that point, pretty much. I was back on the flag stand, spamming down, and you guys were all stuck in mid behind the flag carrier. So at that point, it becomes really tricky to kind of catch up.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as flag carriers through mid, it's over.
But yeah, overtime. I mean, we saw. That may have been the only actual overtime game, but certainly there were many that were
Two
close.
very close that probably should have gone into overtime. If GS3K didn't get that last second cap in Pistola, or Blad would have gotten the cap against us in Titan
Right,
Pass,
right, yeah.
those
Uh,
both would have come down to it.
and again, if anyone wants to watch those matches, they're all itemized, match by match on YouTube.com/Unreal Tournament. I mean, they're among the closest games ever. I mean, you can't get much closer than what some of these were. So yeah, you can't ask for anything more exciting. I actually feel kind of bad because it really leaves us nowhere to go. I mean, if they want, I'm sure they want to do more events like this. I know they want to do more events like this, and this one went off so well that I'm sure they're going to. And I'm almost worried, like, how can we top that?
Yeah, that's a good point, and I don't have the answer, but hopefully we get some of these pugs that happen, every night, up on stream, and more people decide to come check it out because there's just as good of matches happening, weekly.
Right, and that's just so people know that's going to be irc.globalgamers.net. The channel is going to be Pound UT4 Pugs, right?
Yep.
And that's where everything goes down. I mean, that's the capture the flag, team deathmatch. I think even some of the Instagib capture the flag players are starting to hang out in there.
Yeah, there's even been some assault pugs recently. So
I heard about that. They didn't want to mention it on stream today. I think they said they wanted to kind of, maybe wait it out a little bit. But it's definitely a thing that exists.
Oh, it's happening.
To what end, to what degree, to what type of thing we're gonna see. There's it's kind of up in the air, but that's the great thing about this project right now. It's so open. If Epic doesn't provide a game type, You can make it yourself.
Yep, exactly. I think you'll see a lot of the old game types that a lot of people were 100% faithful to come back, and there's something for everybody in this game, which is the great part about it.
And if I'm not mistaken, did somebody say we were going to be getting something exclusive for this whole thing, like as far as aesthetic stuff? I know we got the is the infiltrator match still going? I think that may still be going on, to where
Yeah,
if you play
that's
the
still going
game
on.
in within a certain period of time, just log in and play it. You're going to get a special item that they put out for this event for the pre-alpha season, and that'll be an exclusive item so that 2 years down the line when this game is hopefully bigger, you can always pop that in the marketplace, have yourself a rare little item, and who knows? And I'm not saying it's going to be like a Counter-Strike weapon selling for $10,000, but you know,
Yeah, get it while it's hot.
maybe then you can use that to pay for an upgraded graphics card if you're not as fortunate as Mr. Blimpo here to be the real MVP.
Yeah, that made it all that much more worth it.
All right, well, I mean, anything else coming out for Twitch chat? You got anything else you want to drop on us? I mean, I think we pretty much covered a lot of what would happen at this event. Doesn't look like anybody has any questions to throw in. Everyone's just kind of sitting back and watching. Well, I mean, any last remarks, man, about the event, about the game, kind of about life?
Um, yeah, it's on its way. I think it's moving in the right direction. Community's great. Everybody has a lot of positive things to say out there. Little, criticism, which is expected. Um, you
And
know,
it's a good time to have it too, frankly.
yeah, but you can't please everybody. And just got to make the best of it. So, see where it's at. If it's not in the state where you think it should be at this point, give it a little while and come back to it, check it out. And it's free to play, so there's really um, you know no reason to not give it a shot.
All right, well, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and pop off and maybe play some games myself. We'll have this up on YouTube, of course, as always, hopefully by the end of the night, depending on how fast everything gets transcoded and all that. I want to thank Blimpo for joining me. I think the true MVP of the weekend, certainly GS3K was willing to concede that himself. Definitely showed off a lot of what the game had to offer. Really, I think the whole weekend showed off a lot of what the game had to offer. So, I mean, like I said, really all I can say to everyone involved is just good show, and hopefully we can follow it up in the future.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.